The American restaurant industry is in freefall, and the people running these companies are either in denial or hoping you do not notice. What I am about to walk you through is not some doom and gloom clickbait. These are real brands, real closures, and real patterns that tell us something uncomfortable about where dining out is headed. We are talking about chains that were once so powerful, so deeply embedded in American culture and daily life, that imagining them disappearing felt completely absurd. These were the places your parents took you growing up. The spots where you celebrated milestones, blew off steam on weekends, or just grabbed a reliable meal when cooking was not an option. And yet here we are in 2026. Locations going dark without warning. Parking lots turning into weed patches. Employees showing up for their shifts only to find padlocks on the doors and no explanation. But here is the part that really matters, and the part most industry analysts dance around. This is not purely about bad management decisions or a tough macroeconomic climate. Those things matter, absolutely. But the deeper, more permanent shift is about us. Regular, everyday consumers have gotten sharper, more demanding, and far less willing to fork over their hard-earned money for reheated, processed food served in a dining room that has not been updated since the Obama administration. The blind brand loyalty that propped these companies up for decades has evaporated almost overnight, and most of these chains have zero idea how to earn it back. They spent years taking customers for granted, and now those customers are returning the favor. Let me walk you through the chains that are circling the drain right now. Some of these will shock you. Others you have probably already noticed yourself. 15. Boston Market. Let us kick this off with a brand that a lot of people genuinely loved. Boston Market. If you are old enough to remember, this place was an absolute lifeline for busy families. You would pull up after a brutal day at work and walk out with rotisserie chicken that actually tasted like someone cared, creamy mashed potatoes, sweet buttery corn, and that whole vibe of a home-cooked meal without spending an hour in the kitchen. It was perfect for what it was. At its height, Boston Market had well over 1,200 locations scattered across the country. That is a massive operation. And now, they are down to fewer than 30 stores. Let that sink in. More than 97% of the entire chain has vanished. Gone. Whole states do not have a single Boston Market left. Even Massachusetts, the state that literally gave birth to the brand, lost its last location. And the way it happened was ugly. This was not a slow, dignified wind-down. Stores were shutting overnight with zero notice. People would drive up for their usual Tuesday chicken dinner and find chains on the doors, lights off, the sign still hanging like some kind of ghost. Behind the scenes, the company was drowning. Supplier debts piling up, landlord disputes, former workers coming forward with complaints. The fatal mistake was simple. Boston Market had one job: affordable, comforting, convenient food. And it stopped doing that job well. Meanwhile, your local grocery store started selling a perfectly fine rotisserie chicken for $4 or $5. Operating expenses went through the roof, and instead of adapting, leadership just watched it all burn. Today, if you drive past an old Boston Market building, you will likely see cracked pavement and weeds pushing through the parking lot. That is the real monument to what happens when a brand refuses to evolve. 14. Red Lobster. Now we get to one that genuinely shocked people. Red Lobster. This was the seafood spot for regular Americans, not some upscale coastal place with a pretentious menu. This was where a working family could sit down, crack open some crab legs, tear into those legendary Cheddar Bay biscuits, and have a genuinely good time without spending a fortune. Then came the bankruptcy filing in 2024. Over $1 billion in debt, according to court documents. Nearly 100 locations axed in a single round. It was one of the most dramatic implosions the restaurant world had seen in years. And the thing that triggered it? A promotion. The infamous endless shrimp deal. Somebody in the executive suite decided it would be brilliant to take what was a limited-time offer and make it a permanent menu fixture at roughly $20 a plate. Customers did exactly what you would expect. They showed up in droves and ate until they physically could not eat anymore. Meanwhile, the cost of shrimp, labor, and operations was skyrocketing. The math never worked. It was a catastrophic miscalculation, and it nearly killed the entire company. An investment group swooped in to keep the lights on, but the Red Lobster that exists now is a shadow of what it used to be. The menu has been gutted. Fresh seafood has been swapped out for frozen, processed substitutes. Prices went up. Portions went down. Even the Cheddar Bay biscuits, the one thing people universally loved, are noticeably smaller. You can feel the desperation the second you walk through the door. It does not feel like a celebration spot anymore. It feels like a brand gasping for air. One terrible strategic decision brought a decades-old American institution to its knees. That is how fast things can unravel. 13. TGI Fridays. Remember when Friday nights actually felt like an event? TGI Fridays built an entire empire around that energy. Loud music, colorful drinks, Jack Daniel's ribs, loaded potato skins, waiters clapping and singing happy birthday to strangers. It was not fine dining, it was fun dining. And for a long time, that was more than enough. Fast forward to 2026, and TGI Fridays is barely hanging on. The chain filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy, carrying tens of millions in debt. Hundreds of locations have closed. Only about 80 remain operational in the United States. That is a staggering collapse in under 2 years. The core issue is an identity crisis. Leadership tried to modernize and attract a younger demographic, but in the process, they alienated the loyal base that had kept the chain alive. Prices climbed aggressively. Portions shrank. The food started tasting like it came straight from a freezer to a microwave to your plate. And the restaurants themselves? Many of them still look like they were last redecorated during the Bush administration. Faded colors, worn-out booths, and a general atmosphere of neglect. You walk in now, pay sit-down restaurant prices, and get an experience that does not justify the cost in any way. The Friday night magic is gone. The red neon sign might still be flickering, but what it represents died a while ago. Quick pause. If this content is hitting home, do me a favor and smash that like button, drop a comment with your thoughts, and subscribe if you have not already. It helps more than you think. All right, let us keep going. 12. Applebee's. Applebee's used to call itself the neighborhood grill and bar, and honestly, for a long time, it earned that title. This was the go-to spot after the kids' soccer game, the place you defaulted to when nobody could agree on where to eat, the restaurant that was just always there. Nothing spectacular, nothing terrible, just reliable, affordable, and familiar. But that reliability has crumbled. The parent company has been quietly shuttering locations year after year. Not big dramatic announcements, just individual stores going dark, one neighborhood at a time. The silence around it is almost eerie. What went wrong is not complicated. Prices went up significantly because operating costs forced them to, but the quality of the food did not follow. Regulars started noticing that they were paying legitimate restaurant prices for food that tasted reheated and processed. The portions got smaller, the flavors got blander. That value proposition, decent food at a fair price, simply stopped existing. Drive past an Applebee's today and look at the parking lot, count the cars. That tells you everything. A brand can survive a lot of things, but it cannot survive becoming irrelevant. And Applebee's is dangerously close to crossing that line permanently. 11. Denny's here is one that does not get enough attention. Denny's, the 24-hour diner chain that was practically synonymous with late-night breakfasts and road trip pit stops. Grand slams at 2 in the morning, bottomless coffee, and that comforting greasy spoon energy that felt uniquely American. But Denny's has been bleeding locations for years now. The 24-hour model that once defined the brand has been largely abandoned because labor costs make overnight shifts financially impossible. Many locations now close by 10 or 11 at night. Think about that. A diner that was famous for being open all night now locks its doors before the late crowd even arrives. On top of that, food quality has taken a noticeable dive. The Grand Slam that used to feel like a generous, satisfying breakfast now feels like a plate of afterthoughts. Eggs that taste powdered, pancakes that are clearly from a premix, bacon that is paper thin, and you are paying $12 to $15 for it. Meanwhile, the buildings themselves often feel neglected. Sticky tables, dim lighting, and a general air of, "We stopped trying." Denny's is losing both ends of its customer base. The late-night crowd has nowhere to go because the stores are closed. The daytime crowd has better options at local breakfast spots that actually care about food quality. It is a slow fade, but it is happening. 10. Hooters. This one is uncomfortable but necessary to discuss. Hooters wrote a very specific formula for decades. Wings, beer, sports on TV, and servers in the signature uniforms. For a certain demographic, it was a regular hangout. The food was actually decent for a while, especially the wings, and the casual sports bar atmosphere kept people coming back. But the cultural ground has shifted dramatically underneath this brand. Younger consumers, Gen Z and younger millennials, have largely rejected the entire concept. They view it as outdated at best and offensive at worst. The older loyal base, the guys who used to roll in every weekend in the 90s, are now in their 50s and 60s with families. Taking the wife and kids to Hooters is not exactly a comfortable proposition, so the customer base has eroded from both directions simultaneously. And instead of pivoting intelligently, Management responded by slashing costs. The wing quality, the one thing that gave people a legitimate food-based reason to visit, dropped off a cliff. Dry, bland, clearly frozen and reheated. But the prices stayed the same or went up. Locations are closing across multiple states: Florida, Texas, Virginia, and beyond. The ones that remain often feel half-empty on nights that should be packed, like game days. There is a sadness to walking into a Hooters in 2026. It feels like visiting a time capsule that nobody wants to open anymore. The TVs are still on, the beer is still cold, but the energy is gone. The tables are empty. The vibe is awkward rather than fun. Hooters is learning the hardest and most expensive lesson in business. A concept built entirely on a cultural moment will die when that moment passes, and clinging to it only accelerates the decline. 9. KFC. This one genuinely hurts because of how iconic it is. KFC, Kentucky Fried Chicken, the Colonel's recipe, the red and white striped bucket, the 11 herbs and spices. For generations, a KFC bucket was a family event, Sunday dinner, post-game celebration, the thing kids begged for all week. It was the undisputed king of fried chicken. And right now, while the fried chicken category is absolutely exploding, Chick-fil-A has lines out the door from sunrise to sunset. Raising Cane's is expanding at a ridiculous pace. KFC is losing on its own turf. Sales have declined across multiple consecutive quarters. That is not a blip. That is a trend. The problems are everywhere. Walk into most KFC locations, and you feel like you have stepped back to 2005. The dining rooms are often grimy, outdated, and depressing. The menu is bloated with items that nobody asked for, trying to be everything to everyone and excelling at nothing. The chicken itself, the one thing that matters, has become maddeningly inconsistent. One visit you get something decent. The next visit you get dry, rubbery, grease-soaked pieces that taste nothing like the original recipe. Customers have noticed. They talk about ordering a 4-piece meal and getting 2 tiny wing pieces. They describe chicken so oversalted and oily it gives them headaches. These are not isolated complaints. This is a pattern. Meanwhile, the competitors figured out something KFC never did. Simplicity wins. Chick-fil-A does chicken sandwiches. Raising Cane's does chicken tenders. That is it. They do one thing extraordinarily well. KFC is still trying to carry a bloated menu with declining execution, and customers have stopped making excuses for it. Real quick, if you are finding value in this breakdown, hit like, leave a comment below, and subscribe to the channel. Your support keeps this content coming. Now back to it. 8. Cracker Barrel. Cracker Barrel held a special place in American dining that very few chains could match. It was not just a restaurant, it was an experience. The rocking chairs on the front porch, the country store filled with old-fashioned candy and trinkets, the wood-paneled dining room with a fireplace, and a menu loaded with traditional Southern comfort food. Fried chicken, biscuits and gravy, roast beef, peach cobbler. For families on road trips or looking for a Sunday morning breakfast spot, Cracker Barrel was the answer. But leadership made a decision that is now backfiring spectacularly. In an attempt to attract younger customers, they started stripping away everything that made Cracker Barrel feel like Cracker Barrel. The rustic decor got replaced with modern minimalism. The country store got downsized. The rocking chairs started disappearing. The menu shifted away from the hearty, traditional dishes toward trendier options. The result was entirely predictable to anyone paying attention. The loyal base, the people who loved Cracker Barrel specifically because of its nostalgic, old-fashioned charm, felt betrayed and stopped coming. And the younger customers they were chasing? They were never going to choose Cracker Barrel over the dozens of trendy, Instagram-friendly options already available to them. So now Cracker Barrel is stuck in no man's land. Too modern for the old crowd, not modern enough for the new crowd, and bleeding money in both directions. Locations are closing, expansion plans are frozen, and the chain is facing its most difficult period in its entire history. They destroyed their own identity trying to be something they were never going to be. It is one of the clearest self-inflicted wounds on this entire list. 7. Outback Steakhouse. Not that long ago, Outback was the automatic choice when you wanted to celebrate something. A promotion, a birthday, an anniversary. You went to Outback. The dark wood interior, the sizzle of a steak on the grill, and that massive bloomin' onion sitting in the center of the table like a golden trophy. It felt like a treat, a reward for getting through a tough week. In early 2025, the parent company Bloomin' Brands abruptly closed 41 locations. These were not struggling outposts in dying strip malls. Many of them had been solid performers for years. The reason is pure economics. A dinner for a family of 4 at Outback now runs somewhere between $160 and $220. Beef prices have surged, labor costs have climbed, and all of that gets passed directly to the customer. Middle-class families, the exact demographic that built Outback's success, are now doing the arithmetic and deciding it is not worth it. Why spend almost $200 on a heavy, greasy meal when you can buy quality steaks at the grocery store and grill them at home for a fraction of the price? And then there is the bloomin' onion problem. That signature appetizer clocks in at nearly 2,000 calories with a staggering amount of saturated fat. As health consciousness rises, that kind of dish goes from being a fun indulgence to something people actively avoid. The regret after eating one is no longer just financial. It is physical. Outback positioned itself as a special occasion restaurant for everyday people. But when everyday people can no longer afford it, and the food makes them feel terrible afterward, the entire value proposition collapses. That is exactly what is happening. 6. Subway. Here is a chain that a lot of people have already mentally written off, even if it has not made official headlines the way others have. Subway. At its peak, Subway had more locations than McDonald's in the United States. More. Let that register. It was everywhere. Strip malls, gas stations, airports, hospitals, college campuses. The $5 footlong was one of the most successful promotions in fast food history. But Subway has been hemorrhaging stores for years. Thousands of locations have closed, and the pace is not slowing down. The franchise model, which fueled that massive expansion, is now working against them. Individual franchise owners are getting crushed by rising ingredient costs, labor expenses, and corporate mandates that eat into already razor-thin margins. The food itself has become a running joke. The bread that was exposed for containing questionable ingredients, the deli meats that look and taste processed beyond recognition, and portions that have visibly shrunk while prices climbed. A foot-long sub that used to cost $5 now runs you $10 to $14 depending on where you are. At that price point, you are competing with actual delis, local sandwich shops, and sit-down restaurants that offer a far superior product. Subway's rebrand and menu overhaul attempted to turn things around. New bread recipes, premium deli slices, a whole marketing push around freshness. But honestly, it feels like putting a fresh coat of paint on a building with a crumbling foundation. You can change the logo and reshoot the commercials all you want, but when a customer bites into that sandwich and it still tastes like processed nothing, the marketing means zero. The fundamental problem remains stubbornly intact. The food does not justify the price, the stores often feel dirty and poorly maintained, and there are simply too many locations in too many markets cannibalizing each other's already thin business. Subway is still technically the largest restaurant chain by store count in the United States, but that number has been shrinking every single quarter, and nobody expects the trend to reverse. The $5 footlong era is a distant memory, and what replaced it is not compelling enough to keep customers walking through the door. Hey, we are deep into this. If you have made it this far, you clearly care about this stuff. Hit that subscribe button, leave your take in the comments, and give this a like. It takes 2 seconds and it means a lot. Let us keep rolling. 5. Starbucks. There was a time when stopping at Starbucks felt like a non-negotiable part of the morning routine. It was the so-called third place, not home, not work, but that comfortable middle ground where you grabbed your latte, maybe got some work done on the laptop, and felt like the day was starting right. Starbucks did not just sell coffee, it sold a daily ritual. But that ritual has gotten brutally expensive. A medium-sized drink, nothing fancy, just a standard latte, can easily run you $7 or $8. Add a food item and you are pushing $15 for breakfast. Every single morning. Do that math across a month and you are looking at $300 or $400 on coffee and pastries. People have done that math, and they are walking away. The quality and speed have also declined noticeably. Orders take longer. Customizations get messed up. Many locations are visibly understaffed, with baristas clearly overwhelmed and stressed. The cozy third-place atmosphere has been replaced by long lines, mobile order chaos, and a general feeling of being processed rather than welcomed. Meanwhile, independent coffee shops and smaller chains are thriving by offering better coffee, lower prices, and an actual pleasant experience. Starbucks spent years training an entire generation to care deeply about coffee quality, origin, and preparation. And now those same educated consumers have realized they can get a superior product at a local roaster, or even from their own kitchen setup for a fraction of the cost. A decent home espresso machine pays for itself in 2 months, compared to daily Starbucks visits. People have done that calculation, and the numbers do not lie. The brand still carries massive global reach and recognition, but domestically, the cracks are impossible to ignore. Foot traffic is down in many markets. Same-store sales have softened. The drive-through lines that used to wrap around buildings have thinned out considerably. When your core customer base transitions from viewing you as a daily essential to seeing you as an occasional indulgence they can easily skip, you have not just a business problem, you have a relevance problem. And relevance, once lost, is brutally difficult to reclaim. 4. Chipotle. A few years back, Chipotle was the golden child of fast casual dining. The pitch was irresistible. Real ingredients, responsibly sourced, prepared fresh, right in front of you. Big burritos, hand-smashed guacamole, and the feeling that you were making a better choice than hitting a drive-thru. People happily paid a premium because the value felt real. The portions were huge, the ingredients were quality, and the brand had genuine credibility. That credibility is now in serious trouble. A single meal at Chipotle routinely costs $18 to $25 per person in 2026. For a burrito. No table service, no real ambiance, no drinks included. Just a burrito that costs as much as a sit-down restaurant entree. And it would be one thing if the product still delivered. But customers have been documenting, on social media, in reviews, in viral videos, that portions have clearly been cut. The protein scoops are smaller, the rice is skimpier. The guacamole that used to be generous now looks like an afterthought. Quality has become wildly inconsistent from location to location and even visit to visit. Dry rice, chewy meat, under-seasoned beans, these complaints are no longer rare. Chipotle is trapped in a brutal position. It is too expensive to compete with actual fast food, but it does not offer enough to justify comparison with real restaurants. And now competitors have figured out the fast casual formula and are doing it with lower prices and more generous portions. The customers who used to visit weekly are now visiting monthly, if at all. Many have just started making their own bowls at home. Same ingredients, half the cost, twice the portion. When your most loyal customers learn they can easily replicate your product in their own kitchen, that is an existential threat. 3. Olive Garden. Nobody talks about Olive Garden enough in these conversations, and that is a mistake. For years, Olive Garden was the default Italian dining experience for millions of American families. The unlimited breadsticks, the soup and salad combo, and the general atmosphere of abundance. It felt generous in a way that kept people coming back. Date nights, family dinners, birthday celebrations. Olive Garden handled all of it. But the illusion is wearing thin. The food at Olive Garden has always been a far cry from authentic Italian cooking. But customers did not care because the portions were big and the price was right. Now the price is no longer right, and the portions are no longer big. A chicken parmigiana dinner that used to be a solid value now costs north of $20 and arrives looking noticeably smaller than it did 5 years ago. The pasta tastes like it came straight from a factory line. The sauces are generic. The breadsticks, still unlimited in theory, often take forever to be refilled, and when they arrive, they are cold and stale. Younger diners are not interested because they can find actual quality Italian food at local restaurants for comparable prices. Older diners are frustrated because the place they relied on for decades no longer delivers the same experience. The whole brand feels like it is running on autopilot, doing just enough to keep the doors open, but not enough to make anyone excited about walking through them. Olive Garden still has the name recognition and the sheer volume of locations to stay afloat for now, but the trajectory is not encouraging by any measure. Customer satisfaction scores are trending in the wrong direction. Online reviews increasingly read like variations of the same complaint. Too expensive for what you get, food tastes mass-produced, and the atmosphere feels like an afterthought. When your entire brand identity was built on the concept of making people feel like they were part of a big Italian family and giving them more than they expected, and then you systematically start doing the exact opposite, charging more, giving less, caring less, customers notice immediately. And once that trust is broken, getting it back requires a level of investment and humility that most corporate chains are simply unwilling to commit to. 2. Kroger. This entry might surprise some people, because Kroger is not a restaurant, it is a grocery chain. But its struggles are deeply connected to the same forces tearing apart the restaurant industry, and its impact on everyday life is arguably even greater. Kroger is the grocery store that millions of families depend on every single week. Meat, produce, bread, prescriptions, fuel. It is a one-stop lifeline, especially in suburbs and smaller towns. And this lifeline is quietly pulling back. Locations are closing in waves. This is not random downsizing. It is a calculated retreat from stores that can no longer turn a profit. Operating costs are attacking from every angle. Wages are up. Refrigeration and energy costs are up. Transportation and logistics costs are up. Shoplifting losses are up. And on the other side of the equation, customers are spending less. People are splitting their shopping across multiple stores to chase deals. They are clipping coupons aggressively, switching to store-brand products, and ruthlessly eliminating anything non-essential from the cart. A grocery run that used to cost $150 is now something families are desperately trying to keep under $100. But the real damage happens at the community level. When a Kroger closes in a suburban or rural area, it often creates what is called a food desert. The next nearest grocery store might be 15 or 20 miles away. Residents suddenly need to spend more time, more gas money, and more effort just to buy basic food. For elderly residents, for families without reliable transportation, for people living paycheck to paycheck, losing their local Kroger is not an inconvenience. It is a crisis. Kroger is still enormous as a company, but the fact that even a grocery giant this size is contracting sends a deeply unsettling signal about the state of the American consumer economy. Almost at the end here. If this has been eye-opening, show some love. Like, comment, subscribe. It keeps this kind of honest content alive. Let us finish strong. 1. Red Robin. The #1 spot belongs to a brand that might represent the most complete collapse of what casual dining used to mean in this country. Red Robin. If you grew up in America, you almost certainly have a memory tied to Red Robin. That joyful, Red Robin, yum, jingle, the thick, juicy burgers, the bright, cheerful dining room, and the bottomless steak fries, hot, crispy, and endlessly refilled. Red Robin was where you took the kids after Little League, where teenagers went on first dates, where families celebrated without needing a special occasion. The whole brand was built on generosity and fun. You walked in feeling welcome and walked out feeling full and happy without your wallet being destroyed. That is all gone now. Hundreds of locations have gone dark across the country. The ones that remain are barely recognizable versions of what they used to be. The burgers are smaller, the meat quality has dropped, the fries come out lukewarm, and the service has slowed to a crawl. Prices, meanwhile, have climbed steadily. The affordable family meal that was Red Robin's entire reason for existing has been priced out of reach for the very families it was designed to serve. What killed Red Robin is the same thing killing most of these chains: corporate greed disguised as survival. To protect profit margins, they squeezed everything: smaller portions, cheaper ingredients, fewer staff, higher prices. And customers felt every single cut. People do not mind paying for quality. They mind paying more for less. They mind being treated like a revenue extraction target instead of a valued guest. When a brand that was literally built on the concept of joy and generosity becomes a symbol of corporate penny pinching, the betrayal is personal. Customers do not just leave, they leave angry. And angry customers do not come back. Red Robin sits at the top of this list because its collapse is the purest, most concentrated distillation of everything going wrong in the American casual dining industry. It is not just a failing business, it is a symbol. It represents the death of a promise that these chains once made to ordinary families. Come in, enjoy yourself, eat well, and leave happy without breaking the bank. That promise has been systematically dismantled by executives who prioritized quarterly earnings over customer relationships, and the consequences are now irreversible for many of these brands. The Red Robin sign might still be glowing on a handful of street corners out there, but the warmth behind it, the soul of what it used to represent, went dark a long time ago. And that might be the saddest part of this entire list. The bigger picture step back and look at this list as a whole. 15 brands spanning fast food, casual dining, fast casual, coffee, and even groceries, all contracting, all struggling, all facing the same fundamental reality. The American consumer has changed, and these companies have not kept up. People are not stupid. They can taste the difference between fresh food and reheated frozen product. They can feel the difference between a generous portion and a shrunken one. They can do the math on whether a meal out is worth it compared to cooking at home. And increasingly, the answer is no. The era of blind brand loyalty is finished. Customers in 2026 are loyal to value, real, tangible value. Give them quality food at a fair price in a clean, welcoming environment, and they will show up every week. Give them overpriced, processed garbage in a depressing dining room and charge them more for it every quarter, and they will walk away without a second thought. The empty parking lots, the dark windows, the fading neon signs, these are not just signs of individual business failures. They are symptoms of a larger reckoning. The entire model of corporate chain dining, cut costs, raise prices, hope nobody notices, has hit a wall. And that wall is the American consumer finally saying enough. The question now is not which chain will close next. There will always be another closure announcement, another bankruptcy filing, another round of sad goodbye posts on social media. The real question is whether any of these corporations have the self-awareness and the institutional courage to fundamentally rethink how they operate before the market finishes them off completely. They need to stop treating customers like captive audiences who will keep showing up out of habit. They need to stop replacing quality with cost-cutting and calling it efficiency. They need to remember that every single dollar a customer spends is a choice, and in 2026, people are making that choice with more scrutiny than ever before. Based on what we have seen so far from the leadership at these companies, the odds of meaningful change are slim. Most of them will keep doing exactly what they have been doing, raising prices, shrinking portions, cutting corners, and wondering why the parking lots keep getting emptier. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Which of these chains have you already walked away from for good? Which one on this list surprised you the most? Hit that like button if this resonated with you. Subscribe if you want more no-nonsense breakdowns like this one, and I will catch you in the next one. Take care.